Hello and welcome to Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexei, and today I've got another interesting guest, Ali Rabar from the Lean Agency. Ali, how you going there, mate?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, you and I have been sort of working for a few months now, and it's quite interesting for me to speak to you every time because I can sort of relate to your journey as to what you're doing. But at the same time, I think in some parts you've sort of beat me to some things that you're doing right now. In other parts, I can sort of relate to what you're doing where I've done that before. But mate, tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you're doing, and I guess what your background is.
Um, well, I had a quite interesting journey because obviously I'm essentially an immigrant. I came to Australia back in 2015 for a better life, like any other immigrants, and I worked like a horse to kind of build a good life and build a good foundation in a short amount of time. I got into marketing, sales, and overall business back in 2017, 2018 in Australia. And I had a few e-commerce businesses back home when I was younger. I got into the marketing agency space back in 2018 with my first brand. Then I went and I started the second agency. I sold the second agency back in 2022, I believe. And I started Lean Agency, which is a marketing consulting business. So that kind of should wrap up the background for you, man.
Okay, no worries. So you've gone from an agency to basically another agency to coaching to now you're basically doing, things that are, I think, a little bit more interesting. Tell us about what you're doing right now. I mean, the fractional
Yeah,
CMO stuff that you and I spoke about probably doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So tell us what it is and tell us what you do.
yeah, I know you do a bit of it yourself as well.
I
I
do.
don't know, at some points in my journey, I started getting obsessed in being a better marketer, getting better in my craft, rather than just chasing numbers and revenues and that stuff. And Lean Agency is a very good brand, and we're helping like hundreds of agency owners. We're helping like dozens of agencies, like in a one-on-one capacity and done-for-you capacity. But at some point, I feel for my own fulfillment and kind of to really exercise my knowledge as a marketer, I started like getting into something that we call fractional CMO, which is like a flavor of the season now. It's pretty much, you know, getting involved with bigger brands, medium to large size businesses, but in fuller scope, right? So instead of just going out there and kind of install a single channel marketing for some of these big brands, you actually approach it more strategically. So it's kind of like in a nutshell is a strategy over tactic. So
Hmm.
you start with a strategy, and then you're gonna push it to like multi-layer marketing, multi-channel marketing, and try to implement those to get the better results for bigger brands.
Yeah. Well, for those who are listening right now, if you're running a business, you would have obviously engaged, some contractors either to do with, web development or social media or Google Ads or anything. And I'm sure a lot of the time you may feel a little bit, frustrated with all the reporting and the entire process. So what a fractional CMO essentially does is they step into the role of helping you make sense out of the whole thing and steer you in the right direction with the strategy and also with the decision-making process as well. And I think
That's
another
exactly
issue,
that.
yeah, and I think another issue is a lot of the business owners just simply don't know what else is available. People are like, hey, Google, let's do everything Google, but they completely miss the point with traditional marketing, CRM, newsletters, they print marketing, their overall strategy as to how they position themselves, and that's where the fractional CMO comes in to close all those gaps and also manage vendors a lot of the time. I find that's an interesting part where a lot of business owners just don't want to be dealing with another vendor. They're too busy. Oftentimes they introvert, and that's the situation. I thought I'd just bring a little bit of clarity here.
No,
Okay.
no, man, I can't agree more. I think like when everything is digital, some of those traditional marketing strategies can act like a golden strategy
Mm,
because people don't expect it anymore. Like people don't expect opening up the letterbox and found like I don't know, a special offer or like a handwritten note from like a business owner promoting their offers.
mm,
Those things will stick, you know? So the golden strategy, but I'm a big believer of marketing is an ecosystem, right?
mm.
You cannot just have one channel and rely on one channel and one channel only. That's a recipe for like, just failure, potential failure. Because
Mm.
What if that channel doesn't work? Then what? Your business is going to go down. So that's why the power or like holistic approach towards marketing, towards sales, I think it's a better approach long term for businesses.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's all about sustainability, and you're right. There's a lot of changes that come out from Google and Facebook, and oftentimes I've seen some, crazy scenarios where Facebook has disallowed someone's page purely because they try to change, let's say, the actual name, the
Yeah.
actual URL, and suddenly no ads were running, and people are like, what do we do now? And that's the sad part. Like, if you're just relying on the one a particular avenue and it's working for you, great. But what if you're wanting to expand? What if you actually want to grow? What if this stops working? How does that work? I think that's a question to ask. Anyway, mate, you're working with a lot of agencies. So how did you end up working with agencies? Did you find that there's a particular set of problems that agencies were experiencing, or were you pretty much reflecting on yourself? How did you get into all this agency mentoring and coaching?
I knew I'm a coach at heart, even before I started my first ever agency. My mentor at the time kind of stopped me from going right off the bat to become a coach because with no credibility and just the willingness to be a coach, and you're not going to be a successful mentor or coach, right? You need to have, social proof and results on the back, and most importantly, like battle tested strategies and knowledge. So I started my agencies and I started learning the business model really well. For me, I wanted to become a coach and help people like more hands-on to see the transformation a little bit like, with my own eyes, not just behind data. So I was thinking, what niche can I create relevancy faster? What niche can I help the most, more effectively? And in my mind, going after marketing agencies and helping him out was a no. So that's why how I ended up with agency owners like a few years back. With agency owners, one of the main things I see is a lot of them are still operating in traditional sense with more like model. A lot of agency owners that they come to us, they struggle with profitability. So they build their agency in a way that they're obviously delivering a lot of services to a lot of type of industries. So they do everything and they become everything to everybody, right? As a result of it, I found they got to get a lot of staff on board because obviously they need more skill set internally. And when you compound that over the time, you're going to see the profitability shrinks and shrinks. So what we did was, based on my experience, we started like developing a new model, which we call a lean agency model. We started like implementing that in agencies and help agencies with a lot of change to be able to increase the profitability, go through transformation, leaning down the team, downsizing the team, and I don't know, having an agency that's it's fulfilling, but also doesn't feel like a 9 to 5 job, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as an agency owner, I can certainly tell you
Yeah.
that that definitely resonates. And I think regardless of the business, I think this isn't just an agency problem. I can certainly relate to a lot of businesses that just sort of developed over time. And, over the last 4 years, COVID has obviously been quite an impact on a lot of businesses contributing to their growth. And I think as a result, a lot of people just went with the flow and ended up with a lot of staff. They had to increase their salaries to keep a lot of people. They had to increase their prices. And at the end of the day, a lot of business owners sort of found themselves exactly where they were 4 or 5 years ago, despite all this change in growth, probably burnt out, very tired, and oftentimes questioning, should I be doing this? So I understand the agency side of things, but I also see that across a lot of other businesses too.
Yeah, because you
Find
have
the
a
same?
few other because you
Yeah,
have a few other like business models that you're running beside
yeah,
the agency. I think you can see it across different business model, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. That's probably why, like, um, a lot of businesses, like, statistically, they're not gonna make it after like a first 1 to 3 years, man, because the business models are proven, but the way that you're going to run the business is going to make or break it. Like I've come across a lot of businesses that they bring a lot of revenues, but the profit margins are very slim.
mm,
As you said, at those times, you probably lose your sanity a little bit and you're going to question it. Why am I doing this? Like,
mm.
So yeah, man, can't agree more on that.
Yeah, I've recently seen a post on Facebook where someone's like, business owners are trying to avoid working 40 hours a week by working 80 hours a week, you know?
Oh man, yeah, being in business is probably not the easiest path to take. They call it like road less traveled, right?
Yeah.
Because it's tough. And a lot of people get into it, and after a year or so, they're gonna question it. But the power of it is that you're gonna stick at it and you're gonna figure it out, right? How long you been in the business for? Like ages, right?
Too long. I started my agency use in 2007, so that's a
Dude,
while.
yeah, you've been almost like 20 years in it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, every time I say it, I feel super old, mate. But yeah, anyway, it just doesn't quite feel like it. I think every business is a journey, right? And you have to understand how to potentially grow that business to a point where it actually becomes a business. I still find that many business owners have got that mentality of creating themselves a jobs.
Yeah.
And if you don't benefit from that job money wise or don't really enjoy what you're doing, then you really go in the other direction. And look, like what you're doing right now, fractional CMO, it's still you. You're selling your hours, but you're doing this at a completely different scenario where it
Yeah.
opens up a lot of avenues. So it's almost like, hey, now this actually complements the rest of my business and allows me to have better conversation with the customer, probably as equal. Where a lot of the time you end up being in that vendor shoes too much, and then people don't really appreciate a lot of the advice that you give them. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a different synergy. Coming from like running a few marketing agencies myself, it's a different synergy that you build with the clients in the level of like fractional CMO or like building an ecosystem for them. I think you just take more control, which I think a lot of big businesses they need because man, they're so busy. Even the team is busy, and they're not doers. Like a lot of big brands, you got to deal with the marketing managers, and marketing managers are not doers. They're good at strategizing. They're good at like gluing things together, but they're not. That's why the fractional marketing team or fractional CMO concept comes into place, right? To be able to like help these businesses as a fraction, as a fractional marketing team attached to their business. But again, like pros and cons, man. There is no perfect business model. There is no perfect niche. They all have pros and cons, and what is it? You got to choose your heart. You got to choose which path you want to take. I feel.
yeah, okay. Well, for those business owners who are listening, what would be your advice? I mean, if someone's like, "Hey, yeah, this stuff definitely resonates," where would you get started with somebody who does fractional CMO or marketing consulting, for that matter? How would you approach and start with somebody like that to give them some clarity as to where they are? What would be your approach?
As in someone that want to become a like business consultant or fractional
No,
CMO.
no, I'm talking more generally for business owners who are listening. If they think, okay, what Ali is saying is great, and I'd love to engage someone like Ali to help me, make sense out of what's happening. Where would you start? Because obviously, for a lot of business owners, they are busy, all right? They've got enough on their plate already. The last thing they need is another task. How do you approach people, and how does it work in your opinion? Because obviously you work with other agencies, so I think you're probably the best person to provide a bit of a general advice on the whole concept of how to approach a fractional CMO and what they can
Yeah.
do for them.
Yeah. I mean, even beside fractional CMO, I feel like if you want to work with an agency or with a marketer per se, you gotta start doing your own research before you engaging with anybody. Because if you don't have the foundation and understanding of what you're after, mainly around your problems and the possible solution, not the exact product that you have to implement, I think just jumping from one call to the other one, interviewing like fractional CMOs or interviewing other agency owners probably is another approach. And that's how people burn money. They make bad decisions. They're gonna lose like $10,000, $20,000, and it put a really bad taste in their mouths when it's about like online marketing. I feel I start doing a bit of a self-education and some research. The second thing I would say, search about the people that you're engaging. There are a lot of people out there, they don't know what they're talking about, right? Coming from somebody that's consulting agency owners, been an agency owner, is an agency owner, right? I know like how the market is, and there are a lot of like low expect. It's a low entry level industry. Everyone can get into it. Everyone can watch a few YouTube video and run ads, right? So I think if I want to give one single advice, do your own research and make sure who you trust in the industry. Because if you find one good supplier, right, one good supplier, they're gonna change your business. They're gonna transform your business. So I think do your own research. Make sure the person that you choose to work with they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, you're spot on. There's just way too many people who yesterday were, I don't know, doing something completely irrelevant, and suddenly they found Google ads or Facebook ads, and suddenly they're an expert. But in reality, running ads and delivering results that are specific to the business is two different things, and there's so many other things in between that as well.
100%, man. And the danger zone is when you get involved with somebody that just started the agency journey and they need the money, so they don't really care, right? So they're gonna just close deals, they're not gonna deliver, and just gonna get really messy. So I think just gotta be careful who you trust in this market, especially like you open your Instagram and Facebook feed and you scroll up and down, and you're gonna see like, dozens of agency ads, right? So we gotta think about what differentiates one agency owner or one marketer from the other, right?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I think every agency has got their own story and their own strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's important to understand that. I normally wouldn't buy if an agent tells you we can do everything type stuff, because typically it's
Yeah.
just not possible unless they are humongous and affiliated with other agencies that are specializing. I just don't think it's ever going to work. So
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Totally. Totally.
yeah. Now in relation to I guess the agencies themselves, there's obviously been quite a big change in the whole agency vibe, I'd say, over the last 3 to 4 years. AI obviously is well and truly here with some pretty serious solutions that are coming into place. Google and Facebook are both pushing for more automated stuff. How are you finding the agencies are evolving? I mean, what's the update with the agency in your opinion? If a business owner is listening to us, like, hey, are the agencies still worth dealing with? Should they be doing something specific? Should we be doing something ourselves in terms of AI? I mean, what's the story with agencies at the moment, in your opinion, as a bigger
Great
picture?
question there. Great question there. I was a little bit late on the AI train. I was a little bit late to jump on the AI train a few years back, and now I'm fully on board. And I firmly believe what AI is doing is really pushing the standard of the industry. Right? So I actually don't think of it as a pessimistic thing. I actually think about it as very optimistic that it's going to wipe out a lot of inexperienced marketers and agency owners from the industry, right? If someone doesn't have the skill set and AI can replace them that easily, they shouldn't be in that place at the first place, right? So I think it's going to push the standards quite high, especially in the next few years. For like business owners, right? I think it's going to make it easier for you guys to potentially think about doing a lot of these things in-house, talking about small businesses, right? Instead of spending like, thousands and thousands of dollars and outsource your marketing to somebody else, you can potentially do a lot of these things in-house because the platform softwares, AI can allow you to do so with a bit of education. I'm not a big believer of outsourcing, Alexei. I'm a believer of upsourcing. The difference is with outsourcing, you just give it to somebody,
Mm.
right? You don't understand what's going on, and it fails or succeeds, you don't know what's going on. You don't have any control, right? Upsourcing is you're going to build a foundation in your small business, right? You're going to do a certain thing yourself, and you do it decently. And then you're going to find somebody and you outsource it to somebody that can do it better than you do. That's the best approach. One of my former mentors, Scott Alford, used to say, you don't outsource your marketing unless you're a seven-figure business. Then you can look into doing it and take care of other stuff in your business, which I'm not sure if I fully agree with it, but that kind of gives you a bit of a benchmark of how important it is to actually just learn it a little bit, understand it a little bit before you're actually giving it to somebody else to do it. And I think AI really made that possible for small businesses.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that concept, mate. Yeah, outsourcing is definitely good because that gives the business owner at least some basic understanding of the process and allows them to compare something. Because many people just blindly go and say, "Hey, can you do my social media ads?" And it's like, well, okay, and they do social media ads, and then the business owner's like, "Hey, I'm happy or not happy with something," but in reality, they don't even know what to compare that to. And look, I think it's just very important to define the KPIs. What's the quality lead? What does that look like? What's a reasonable, cost per acquisition? And I think these are very fluid KPIs as well, because if you just look into the cost per acquisition, you have a problem as well. Because if that's all people are comparing by, this is why I hear a lot of conversations where business owners go, hey, should we go Google or should we go Facebook? Well, okay, why are you even thinking that question? Well, Facebook is, $10 per lead, and on Google, we're paying $100 per lead. Well, are they the same sort of leads? No, Facebook ones, 1 in 10 wouldn't be right. So you're pretty much paying the same thing, aren't you? And when you have that conversation, the business owner arrives at an outcome where, okay, both are obviously worth investing into, but then it just comes down to understanding the whole process, mate. Yeah, love it. That's really, really good.
100%, man. And that comes from the lack of understanding and knowledge around marketing and advertising and leads and sales and whatnot. That's why you got to educate yourself as a business owner.
Yeah.
Like, I love businesses that they come and they just want to learn how to run their own ads, how to kind of build their own funnels. I love that, because I know it's just such a long-term investment for them to kind of like learn how to do it themselves a little bit before they give it to somebody else. At least you know who to choose because you understand it, right? You can find a good outsourcing or upsourcing partner in future. It'll help.
Yeah, yeah. I think a while ago I read one of the books by not Donald Trump. Well before he became the president or got into the whole political agenda.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which book it was exactly, or maybe someone would have quoted him. Could have been a book where they analyzed all those really powerful and successful people. And they had a definition of luck, which is what you're referring to. Because a lot of people do say, hey, it's luck. Well, luck stands for location, understanding, connections, and knowledge. And if you think about it that way, I think that really explains a lot of things, because, hey, okay, I'm in the right place at the right time. I have a deeper understanding. Now that we've gone through this, I have a deeper understanding of this. Connection. Yeah. Hey, I know a few people that basically can help me interpret that as well. And then knowledge. Now I possess the knowledge to be able to advance further. Awesome, mate. Love it.
Yeah, bro. That's exactly a definition of being lucky, 100%.
Yeah. And look, if we're talking about luck altogether, I think the thing with agencies, sometimes people get way too excited because all they hear is all the good news. It's almost like the lottery, right? People are like, oh my God, this guy bought himself a Merc, or they bought an awesome car, but they don't know about all the things that are happening behind the scenes. So the whole luck thing is, it's very illusional.
It is. You never know until you actually do it, man. Like, honestly, like, being an agency owner, wanting to grow your agency, being a business owner, wanting to scale your business, you actually don't know like how it feels and how it really will be until you actually get into the trenches and do it. So yeah. The shiny object definitely attracts, but it's not realistic.
And I guess another thing to add on one of the things you said, being late to the party. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm late to the party. Well, let's look at the cryptocurrency. Well and truly, a lot of people will tell you, mate, it's too late. It's all whatever. If you invested into Bitcoin a week ago, you would have made 20% today. So that's how much it's jumped by. And look, this is just a very recent example. And I think luck, as what we've just described, is really more about understanding how to make these sort of decisions. Yeah.
Sure, man. Yeah, never too late. And it's funny, people that they say it's too late, they're the ones that are actually investing. So
yeah. Awesome.
Thing.
Mate, what advice would you have for any agency owners listening? I mean, I'm sure we'll have a few listening to this, and I'll make sure that this podcast goes out to a couple of the guests that we had. We had a couple that basically do agencies and work with agencies. What advice do you have for them in November 2024, mate?
More and more I'm realizing, Alexei, the secret to this game is not chasing money, chasing revenue, chasing like growth. The secret to have longevity in this game is to actually be obsessed in getting better, becoming a better agency owner, becoming a better marketer. That's how you're going to have longevity. That's how you're going to succeed, make serious money, because the money is byproduct. And I know probably most of the listeners have seen the statements, have seen the quotes everywhere that money is byproduct of you helping people. But the reality is, the bigger problems you solve, the better and faster and more effectively you can help people, then you're going to make more money. How can you solve bigger problems? How can you help people, business owner, better? By becoming better yourself, skill set wise. Got to get obsessed. in getting better, in becoming better marketers, getting obsessed in terms of like being good at sales, understanding sales processes. You're not a business owner. You're an agency owner. I think there is a very solid definition between these two. Agency owners, you gotta be marketer at heart. A lot of these guys come into the space. A lot of agency owners, they don't even understand Facebook ads. They just go to Upwork, they get a client, they go to Upwork, outsource it without understanding what's going on. Like, dude, you're just here for a quick cash grab. If that's your approach towards running an agency and being a marketer, what I'm realizing, you gotta get obsessed in becoming a better marketer. You got to develop a lot of a skill set if you want to have longevity in this game. Money will come. That would be my biggest advice.
Yeah, that's a great advice, mate. But yeah, look, unfortunately, we do have a few of those cowboys just wanting to sort of jump in and outsource everything. And look, I think a lot of people do that purely because they're just not sure what else they should be doing. But there's a great book by Grant Cardone called "Be Obsessed or Be Average," which talks, exactly about this concept.
I've read that.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly the idea. Like, you just want to be, I don't know, outsourcing and being the middleman and stuff. Fair enough. But what change are you really making? Are you producing enough of an outcome? Are you really making an impact? Because I think if you talk to somebody about being passionate about something or really making a change, they naturally attract a lot of business and a lot of attention. Like someone goes out and says, "Hey, we've just done this. This is our story." Naturally, a lot of people would want to be a part of that, as opposed to someone saying, "Oh yeah, I can do Google Ads," and then flick it off to someone in India and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of people do it that way, man. Yeah, totally. Totally.
I do also find there are quite a few people who are influenced by people like Alex Hormozy. And for those of you watching, you've obviously got the 100 Million Offers book right behind you there. Good read, but I don't think it's enough of a reason for someone to drop everything and start an agency. I think it's motivational enough, but it's also dangerous because I think a lot of people, once they learn that one trick, they sort of go, "Oh, I don't know any other ones and I don't really understand the bigger picture. Alex Hormozy, tell me more." And then you become really, really dependent on something. I've met a lot of people like that too.
Yeah, I think you got to be careful who you subscribe to online and who you listen to. I think it's very important because they can, massively influence you and the quality of your life. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of experts online, but I really handpick who I'm going to subscribe to
Yeah.
because I'm not here to grow like 10x tomorrow. I'm here to stay in this game for another 20 years.
Yeah.
And if you stay in this game for another 20 years, you're going to grow organically anyway, and you're going to succeed. You're going to help a lot of people. You're going to have a good life. I've read like all Alex Hormozy's book, and they're great. But even him says stuff that I'm not fully agree with, and that's fine. There are good things and there are things that you don't agree, and that's fine. So just gotta be careful who you subscribe to 100%, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mate, great to hear about your thought processes and overall, mate. I'm enjoying this conversation way too much. But I normally, when I get guests on the show, I typically try to go through the section, which is something I call rapid fire. This is where I ask you some pretty, specific questions, and I want a pretty short answer from you if possible. Are you ready?
Good.
If you weren't doing this, mate, what would you be doing?
Probably be a fighter, do martial arts, be a fighter.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place for a holiday? What do you reckon is the best place to go to?
Man, I live on the farm. I have my own farm. I have 25 acres land. I don't want to go to holiday. This is the best place for me, so I don't need a holiday, to be honest.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something like this, like, "Oh, I'll just walk down the road to one of the beaches of Perth and that's it."
No, I just step out and just hang out with my sheep and my hens. So that's the best place for me to be.
Nice, nice. And in terms of personal development, what do you think would be the best book for a business owner in terms of something that's influenced yourself and that's something you'd highly recommend?
Think and Grow Rich.
Really? Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, that was one of the best, especially for people that are starting out. If you're on your first year of the business, Think and Grow Rich is amazing. If you're listening to this and you're still in a 9 to 5 job, which props to you, and you're thinking about starting a business, Think and Grow Rich. If you are an experienced business owner thinking of changing direction, creating a business plan for next year, 2025, Think and Grow Rich. So one of the best books I've ever read.
Awesome, awesome. Well, mate, it's been great interviewing you. And if any agency owners or business owners want to reach out, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
For agency owners, you can go just check out our website, leanagency.com.au. All informations are there. We have like a bunch of free resources. You can just get your hands on, get the trainings, get some value. And if you wanted to kind of see what we have on the back, you can just apply and book a call with myself or my team. For business owners, if you're an established business owner really wanting to scale to $1 to $3 million in revenue, check out alirabar.com, which is kind of like my own personal brand, which is more about like, fractional CMO and building an ecosystem for bigger businesses.
Yeah, I'll make sure to add those links to the description of this podcast episode so that you can actually find those. Ali, thanks very much, mate, for finding the time. It's been a great pleasure interviewing, and hopefully our listeners have learned, obviously, listening to this conversation based on your knowledge. Thanks, you, mate.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. That was great. And yeah, just keep it up. These podcasts definitely help a lot of people. It's free education. So yeah, man, keep it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, for those who are listening to Better Business Podcasts, please don't forget to subscribe and share these episodes. If you find that there's someone who may benefit from it, just copy the link and flick it through to them. We are obviously on YouTube as well as all the major podcast channels. But if there's something we're missing, hit me up and I'll be happy to add it. My name is Alexei. This is Better Business Podcast, and I'll speak to you soon.